Edward Snowden speaks out at Moscow airport. Uranium processing plant in Guangdong scrapped. Locally, fallout from government failure to push through landfill expansion plans.
Hello and a very good evening. Former US intelligence contractor Edward Snowden has asked Russia for temporary asylum while he tries to arrange travel to a Latin American country willing to give him political asylum. The request has stirred up a hornet's nest in Washington, which wants him arrested and returned to the US, where he's wanted for espionage for leaking National Security Agency surveillance secrets. Alan Buckner reports.
Edward Snowden made the request to Russia during a meeting with human rights activists in the transit lounge of a Moscow airport, where he's been holed up since leaving Hong Kong on June 23rd. Snowden also accepted the offers of asylum he's received from Venezuela, Bolivia, and Nicaragua.
I ask for your assistance in requesting guarantees of safe passage from the relevant nations in securing my travel to Latin America, as well as requesting asylum in Russia until such time as these states accede to law and my legal travel is permitted. I did not seek to enrich myself. I did not seek to sell U.S. secrets.
Also at the meeting with Snowden was a Russian parliament member who expects Moscow to grant the temporary asylum request, so long as Snowden doesn't reveal further secrets that could hurt the U.S.
The message is to protect his rights. Most of the Russian people would agree with that. Definitely my electorate does not regard Mr. Snowden as a criminal. He did nothing wrong to Russia.
The request prompted a call from U.S. President Barack Obama directly to Russian President Vladimir Putin. But there appears to be no breakthrough on Washington's demand that Russia expel Snowden.
I would simply say that providing a propaganda platform for Mr. Snowden runs counter to the Russian government's previous declarations of Russia's neutrality, and that they have no control over his presence in the airport.
Meanwhile, South American leaders meeting in Uruguay condemned the U.S. over the allegations of spying in the region and defended their right to offer Snowden asylum. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
Plans to build a uranium processing plant in Jiangmen in Guangdong province have now been scrapped. The decision follows strong opposition from residents there. The 37 billion yuan project by China National Nuclear Corporation triggered a slew of protests. Demonstrators worried about safety risks took to the streets of Heshan and Jiangmen yesterday. Last night, the Heshan city government announced it would extend the 10-day consultation period to 20 days. And this morning, the announcement was out that the plans were dropped, with a statement on the government's website saying it had respected people's wishes. The Jiangmen city mayor made a televised address this afternoon, insisting her government is a responsible one that shares a goal with residents to protect their living environment. Officials refused to answer questions at an earlier press conference and didn't say whether it would find another location for the plant. Local residents showed mixed feelings about the announcement. This woman said it's great news for the future generations to grow up without the plant posing toxic threats. But this woman was suspicious, saying authorities may simply build the facility later. The plant was needed to undertake uranium conversion and enrichment as the country tries to become self-sufficient in the fuel cycle of nuclear power. China is building a dozen nuclear reactors in Guangdong on top of the 5 in operation now, in a bid to cut down on the more polluting coal power. But this has caused much unease in neighboring cities, including Hong Kong. Typhoon Sulik has made landfall on the mainland, slamming into Fujian province this afternoon. Across the strait in Taiwan, people are picking up the pieces after the powerful storm swept across the island last night. At least one person died and more than 20 were injured. Rescue workers in Nantou helped residents evacuate from their flooded homes. The typhoon also caused floods in Taiwan's central cities of Chiayi and Taichung, damaging properties and disrupting traffic.
Some local news now. The government plans to resubmit funding applications for the expansion of Hong Kong's 3 landfills to the Legislative Council after the summer break. Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam says the administration will make use of the summer holiday to come up with proposals on how to compensate affected residents. Evelina Leung reports.
We will not give up plans to expand the city's 3 landfills. Fighting words from the Chief Secretary for Administration this morning after the Legislative Council delayed discussions on expanding the Two Moon and Takuleng sites yesterday. Carrie Lam said the government will resubmit funding applications for the expansion of all 3 landfills, the 3rd one at Cheung Kwan O, after the legislative summer break. The administration hopes to see the expansion of all 3 landfills happen simultaneously, Lam said. She added officials will make use of the summer holiday to consult affected residents and look into ways to minimize the impact on them. Speaking to TVB News today, Tam Yu-jung of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong supports discussing all 3 proposals together. Tam said his party has not yet reached a consensus on the expansion plans, but he believes society will support them if the government can minimize the impact on residents and offer them compensation. Others, meanwhile, say it's important the government learns from this episode.
First of all, it shows that in a democratic society, the process is also very important. It's not just the merits of the case, but the process. In this particular case about the landfill, people in Tuen Mun obviously feel that they have not been respected or consulted. So this is a lesson that the government should take back.
Evelina Leung, TVB News.
Debate over universal suffrage is heating up after the Alliance for True Democracy unveiled its proposals for the 2017 chief executive election. 2 executive council members waded in today, with one of them warning they may not receive Beijing's approval. Some in the pan-democratic camp are also unhappy, saying the proposals could be fine-tuned. Joel Da Silva reports.
Within 6 months, that will be the right time for the government to kick off public consultation on political reform, according to Executive Council member Bernard Chan. He says the government should not delay it much longer, as the controversial issue is already generating heated discussions. Chan's comments came after the Alliance for True Democracy presented 3 proposals for universal suffrage for the 2017 chief executive election earlier this week. Among the suggestions, a public nomination process in which candidates must win the support of 2% of registered voters. But another Executive Council member, Fanny Law, said that may run against the expectations of the central government. She insisted Beijing has the final say on the matter. Certain members of the pan-democratic camp, meanwhile, say the proposals are not far-reaching enough.
Any system, which will, have a effect to screen out any nomination to us is totally unacceptable. This is the fundamental principle. The alliance proposal, part of them, is somewhat similar to what we propose, but the whole mechanism varied. This is why we need further discussion.
You can see in the 3 proposals, none of them conform totally with the original principles raised by the alliance. So that's why I can actually, on behalf of the alliance, to say that actually we are not endorsing any one of the proposals at this moment.
While the government comes under fire for using what some call delaying tactics on political reform, the pan-democrats are not wasting any time. Next Wednesday, the People Power leadership plans to meet again to decide whether or not the group will come up with its own universal suffrage proposal. Joel Da Silva, TVB News.
And still to come on our main news tonight. 3rd Chinese schoolgirl dies in Asiana plane crash. Human error ruled out in deadly train derailment in France. And honouring Pakistani teenager Malala Yousafzai.
We are young, nice and clean, see our friends, see the sights.
It's amazing summer. It's fantastic.
Why this watch? This watch has seen the ancient amaze. bunkers like craters, and a duel as epic as the ages. It's witnessed the birthplace of golf, the elements confound, and age-old records beaten. It doesn't just tell time, it tells history.
除咗電染會傷頭髮，有冇諗過風筒嘅高溫熱力先可能係每日嘅 hair killer， 搞到頭髮乾旱又開叉，點算好呢？試下 Essential Damage Care 蘊含蜂蜜及乳木果嘅角質層修補精華配方，以4倍保護力修補兼有助鎖水，洗髮時唔再打結，髮尾更時刻水亮順滑。每日嘅柔順亮體驗，你都試下 Essential Damage Care。
I'm no ordinary TV. I'll show you why.
My home screen.
With face recognition, I can display your favorite content instantly. And if you want to search the internet, just talk to me and I'll get it for you. Who am I? I'm Smart TV. Made easy. Smart Viera.
Panasonic.
Top Rank presents a full night of World Championship Boxing featuring the return of Zhou Shming. Mexico's fearsome Juan Estrada returns to Macau to defend his world title against dangerous Filipino challenger Milan Melindo. Then hard-hitting superstar Evgeny Gradovich of Russia defends his World Championship title against Argentinian star Mauricio Muñez. And China's Zhou Shming continues his quest for a world title, facing Mexico's hard-hitting Jesus Ortega. Hotel packages including 2 tickets start at 1,700 Hong Kong dollars. Contact the Venetian Macau Resort Hotel to order now.
This is it. The U20 Cup will conclude tonight with Ghana versus Iraq for third place at 10:50, followed by France and Uruguay battling for the championship at 1:30. All live and right here on Pearl.
Welcome back. A third Chinese girl has died in the Asiana Airlines jetliner crash in San Francisco last Saturday.
It is a pediatric patient who's been in our intensive care unit since the time of her crash. Her family has asked that we don't release any details about her, her identity, the nature of her injuries, or the treatment that she received.
And the San Francisco Police Department confirmed that one of the 2 Chinese teenagers killed on the day of the tragedy was run over by a fire truck rushing to the scene. More than 180 others were injured in the crash. Another nightmare for Boeing's 787 Dreamliner, this time a fire on board one of the jets at London's Heathrow Airport. Firefighters had to spray the Ethiopian Airlines 787 with foam after a small fire was reported at the back of the jet. No word on what caused it. Nobody was injured and there were no passengers on board the plane, which was parked at a remote stand at the time of the blaze. The external scorching from the fire was in a different part of the aircraft from the bays which contain the batteries that were the cause of a lot of the 787's problems earlier this year. Those battery fires forced aviation authorities to ground the Dreamliner for 3 months while Boeing came up with ways to deal with the problem.
Elsewhere in Europe, at least 6 people were killed and dozens more injured after a train derailed at a station just south of Paris. France's transport minister has ruled out human error as a cause, and instead authorities say it was a fault with the tracks. Authorities have also warned that the death toll could rise.
Chunks of concrete slabs and twisted bits of metal across the track were a grim reminder of last night's tragedy. The 6 derailed carriages, scattered like matchsticks and smashed against the station platform, showed how serious it was. There were dozens of casualties when a regional service from Paris veered off the track at a station just south of the French capital. Passengers who survived the terrifying ordeal said victims were either crushed, electrocuted or cut by flying glass. Emergency workers rushed the most seriously injured by helicopter to local hospitals.